Welcome to CQ Blind Hams, your source for everything amateur related, tutorials, radio reviews, and so much more. Come on in and stay a while.
This is November Echo 5 Victor Chris, and I want to talk a little bit today about the GD77 S and the firmware from the Open GD77 project. Of course, we're seeing an awful lot of stuff come up here about the GD77, but they've made surprising advances on the GD77 S as well. So I ought to talk about this in case people want to try this open firmware or open source firmware as opposed to the stock. Of course, one of the complaints in the stock firmware is the only ID that gets mentioned is your own DMR ID. And everybody says, why don't we get something that'll tell us the talk group you're on? Well, that's one of the things that's happened with the GD77S firmware that's available at Open GD77. So I'm going to turn this radio on.
Channel 4. Channel 1.
See, you still have the channel and all of this stuff. Now, all of the buttons are assigned by the firmware, so I'm going to hit the SK1 key, which is right below the push-to-talk key. I'm going to long press it, and I get this.
Frequency 432.500. ID code 314810. Key 2.
Now, that's the talk group that I'm on. Now, for instance, if I want to go to the Blind Hams talk group, I can cycle down with SK2.
ID code 31679.
There it is, 31679. So now the button assignments have changed. Okay, the top button here by the antenna, if I long press it, I get a battery level, but I get it in percentage.
Battery 18.8.
So in other words, I have 88% battery left. Now if I hit this top orange button again,
Scan mode.
you have scan mode on or off, and you use the two side buttons below the push to talk to turn it on or off.
Scan on. Scan off. Channel 1.
If I hit the button, orange button again, this top button,
Key mode. Key 2. Key 1. Key 2.
it's not exactly clear, but that's actually T mode, so I can manually change the time slots on the radio. Say if I'm on a particular, if this is good for repeater operation, say if I were on a repeater and I was listening on slot 2, I wanted to go slot 1, this is the mode I'd use.
Level mode. Level off.
Now level mode, it took me a while to figure out what's happening here, but that is the equivalent of promiscuous mode. If I turn level on, the radio will only be listening to one talk group. If I turn it to level off, it will hear, say for instance, on a repeater or on a hotspot, if you have more than one active talk group, you can hear both of them. Now, if you're in this promiscuous mode and you're listening on one group and another talk group becomes active and you want to talk on it, you hit the bottom, you hit SK2, which is the bottom left button. You long press it and the radio will say channel set. Okay, so anyway, that's what the level mode is.
Store mode.
Store mode That's actually your zones.
Store 1, channel, store 1, channel 1.
I only have one zone in this one, so it calls it store 1. If I were to put another zone in, it'd call it store 2.
Power mode.
Power mode.
Level 0.050.
Now you get 10 different choices of power level. Before, on the stock firmware, you have only one mode. Now I'm on the lowest one, which is
Power level 0.050.
that's 50 milliwatts. So the other choices I have, if I go up,
Power level 0.250.
250 milliwatts.
Power level 0.500.
500 milliwatts.
Power level 0.750.
750 milliwatts.
Power level 1.
That's 1 watt.
Power level 2.
2 watts.
Power level 3.
3.
Power level 4.
Power level 5. There it is.
Power level 5 plus.
Now that's for emergency situations. Yeah, I'm told it works out to about 7 watts on VHF, 4 watts on UHF. Yeah, UHF. So let's go back down.
Power level 0.050.
That's where I keep mine, on the hotspot. And then the other mode you have, let's see.
Channel mode. ID code 31679.
Okay. So now the interesting thing about this one, as opposed to the GD77 S, is originally for years it was suggested that you program each channel as one receive group, and each receive group only had one contact. Well, that's not the case anymore. What I did on this one is, on the Open GD77 firmware, that's what I used to program this radio with. It was the Open GD77 CPS. And the receive group now is listed as TG lists. So I put all of my DMR contacts in one receive group or TG list. So now I can go on my hotspot DMR channel, depending on which talk group I want. I can use the side keys here, SK1 and SK2, to cycle through these talk groups. So one is blind hams.
ID code 314810.
That's one of our local talk groups that a few of us use.
ID code 3148.
There's the Texas State talk group.
ID code 31480.
That's Texas Chat.
ID code 31481.
And let's see, that's South Texas, I believe it is. But anyway, you got the idea.
ID code 3129973.
There's the East Coast Reflector.
ID code 31041.
And there's a talk group in Arizona. Anyhow.
ID code 31679.
Now, if you want to make a private call, for instance, if you want a parrot call, anyhow, there's a little activity on blind hams. But anyway, if I want to make a private call, because private contacts are not listed in a receive group, I have to devote a channel to a private call. So, in other words, on one channel here, let's see here, what have we got?
ID code 9990.
There's the parrot channel that I have.
ID code.
If I use the side keys, that's the only thing I'm going to get, because that's the only thing in that channel. There's no talk group associated with it.
Channel 3.
And what's this one?
Frequency 432.500. ID code 4000. Ne5V.
Anyway, there's my disconnect channel. Anyway, that's some of the things, though, that'll happen. Now, we did find a bug in this firmware release, because some of the frequencies, especially on VHF, when you try to enter them, for whatever reason, it radio doesn't quite receive it correctly. John KD5 or KD8 PC pointed out to me here at one point that when he entered 147.1200, that the radio didn't take it correctly.
Channel 4. Channel 5.
And I have found that that's the case here. For some reason, if I put in 147.12000, it comes out this way on the radio.
Frequency receive 147.1205. Transmit 147.7205.
So, as you see, it's 500 hertz off. In case you missed it, here it is again.
Frequency receive 147.1205. Transmit 147.7205.
It doesn't do it on every frequency like that, but it does do it occasionally. So I guess we ought to have to submit that as a bit of a bug, but anyhow, that's kind of interesting. Anyhow, thought that would be some useful tips on the GD77 S. To me, it kind of perks that radio up, and seems to make it work pretty nicely. So again, this is Chris, November Echo 5 Victor. Hope you've enjoyed the podcast.